lining up a flex line.
That looks good.
That's a really nice looking line, Alex.
That looks good.
Oh, no way.
Frisbee golf, one of the fastest growing sports in the world right now. And Minecraft, the best selling game of all time.
So what happens when you bring one of the world's fastest growing sports into the world's most creative game? You get Minecraft Frisbee golf. Custom courses, simulated disc physics, and one question. Can you make a disc fly in a blocky world?
Alright, so to keep y'all updated on my progress so far on the day one, of course, we have a map, which my friend actually made for me. A very cool map, and he's still working on it, of course. But it's looking very nice. As well as I've actually made a lot of the Frisbee physics. Of course, there's some left, for example, water skipping, or add some bounce stuff like objects and stuff. And of course, I haven't even completed the interface of the throwing. But it's looking pretty good so far. So I'll show you what I got. Alright, so I'll be showing y'all a few different shots in a second, but first let me just explain the different variables. So we have X, Y, and Z. These don't really matter that much, but basically what they are is kind of the offset. So for example, if I were to put the Y to 50, it will actually start the throw a little bit higher. But they don't really matter that much, that is why they're at 0 instead of like a number like the other ones, as you can see. Then we have the X, which is basically the forward momentum, or velocity of the throw. And that basically just says how kind of like hard you threw the shot, you know. And then we have Vy, which is the upwards velocity, so how much it kind of like moves upwards. Then we have Vz. This is basically like kind of depicts how the curve starts in the beginning, and I'll show you what I mean later by that. And then we have spin. Basically how the spin works is if it's positive, it will spin to the right, and depending on the number, it will spin more, of course. And if it's negative, it's going to spin to the left. And then we have gravity. Gravity is usually the same, but of course you can adjust the gravity to kind of make it float more, you know, whatever. And then we have a few other things which you can actually adjust, which I call constants. They're kind of like worldwide based. So we have, for example, a lift factor, basically how much it's going to lift up into the air. Then we have a drag of the Frisbee, how much like resistance and stuff it's getting from the from like the air resistance. And then we have a curve factor, basically how much it curves. As well as I will try to add some wind and stuff that you can adjust whenever you want. Like for example, you can adjust the wind to be 30, you know, like spin more to this side, you know, curves to the left more. But that is kind of like a thing for day 2 or day 3, whenever I get down to it, basically. But anyways, I'll show y'all a few different shots. Alright, so now I'll be showing y'all a few different shots where I basically kind of like adjust the variables to make some cool kind of outputs or flight paths. So as of now, as you can see, we have Vx as 2000 and Vy as 800, and the rest is 0. So well, basically, like what this means is the forward velocity will be 2000 and the upwards velocity will be 800. So for example, if I shoot right now, it's not going to spin at all, and it's going to go quite far, as you can see right there. No spin at all, and yeah, pretty nice. Now, if I were to, for example, put the Vx to even higher, of course the velocity will increase. So let's do like 5000. As you can see, it's gonna go way further and way faster, as you can see, which is pretty nice. And the reason why it stopped right there is because it was out of render distance. So not really anything to be scared about there. But we can actually do the same thing. Of course, make it even less velocity, like 300. And now it's barely even going anywhere. And of course, you can also adjust the upwards velocity with the Vy to, for example, be like 3000. I'll put the Vx to maybe 3000 as well, you know, and we can just shoot the shot, and boom, as you can see, it goes very far and very high. I'm actually going to exit that. Now, we also have Vz, and what basically Vc does, I'm just going to adjust these back to normal values real quick, but basically what Vz does is it kind of says how the start of the curve is.
Alright, so I have to admit, I didn't really explain this in the best of ways, but give me some slack. I recorded all this in one take, basically. So, but what I meant by how it kind of depicts the early curve is that basically, as you can see on this picture right here, is that it will curve and then start to straighten out towards the end.
And this is basically very useful, for example, making the S-curve, which I'll show y'all later. But if I were to, for example, put the Vz to 1000, it's going to start out curving like this, and then it's going to go straight. So, or actually it's going to curve to the right, so I actually went the wrong way there. But as you can see, it goes to the right, and then it goes straight. I can actually show you even more drastically how this kind of looks with something like 5000. And I'm going to kill all entities real quick. Goes to the right, then it goes straight. Wait, I need more momentum so I can actually show you how it kind of looks. So forward, or right, and then straight. Right about here. Yeah, there you go, straight, I think. And that's basically what the VZ does. And that will actually be helpful later for the S-curve. And then we have the spin. Of course, you probably know what the spin is, but I'll show y'all anyways. So depending on if the value is minus or positive, it was actually the same with the VZ. Actually, I forgot to tell y'all, but if I put the VZ to minus, for example, this number, it's going to go to the left instead, like this, as you can see. But anyways, back to the spin. So basically, depending on if it's positive or negative or high the number is, it will basically tell you where it's going to curve and how it's going to curve. So for example, if we were to put it to, I don't know, 50 curve, it's going to curve 50 to the right basically. It's going to constantly curve to the right like this, 50, 50, 50, all the way until it kind of turns almost around again, as you can see. I'm going to put the VX and VY to back to normal numbers real quick. But yeah, that was 50. If I were, for example, I wanted to curve to the left, right? Basically, I just do like minus. I'll do minus like 100, even more of a curve, like this. As you can see, it's going to curve to the left like this, and it looks pretty nice. Of course, we can also put the curve to like a very small number, like for example, I don't know, let's say 10. As you can see, it's going to barely curve at all, but it's curving a little bit, barely noticeable though. And then we have, for example, we can do like an insane number. We can do, let's do positive this time. And we'll do like 3,000, like this. As you can see, it's going to curve like crazy. Yeah. But I think I like this value quite a lot, which is like, I like 500 is pretty cool in my opinion. Especially when you got quite a lot of forward velocity. So if I were to, for example, put the VZ, or VX I mean, to 3,000, like this. It's going to go boom. And all the way around like that, pretty cool, in my opinion. But yeah, that was basically the spin. And now I can show you the gravity. And now I'll show you the gravity. So this is a normal shot with minus 50. As you can see, pretty cool, right? Now, I'll show you it with like lower gravity, right? So if I put the gravity to maybe half, so 10. As you can see, it's going to be way longer in the air. For a longer period, like right about now, it would have already been on the ground if it was gravity 20. But yeah, or we can do something like 100. So basically now it's gonna drop down instantly, as you can see, and boom, down the ground instantly. And we can of course adjust that however you want, which is pretty cool. But now to show y'all the kind of the famous S curve. So basically, to get the S curve, you can start out with a spin value, right? For example, let's do minus 100, like this, and then basically you put the VZ to the opposite value, because the VZ only depicts how the curve starts, not how it kind of ends, which the normal spin does. So if I put the VZ to a positive number, like 1,000 maybe, or maybe I'm going to do 1,500. So basically what you will see right now is it's going to start curving to the right, and then it's going to slowly start curving into the left again. So boom, and to the left, as you can see right there. Actually, I can give you guys even a more drastic result. So let's do even more of a VZ, like maybe 3,500, like this. And even more of a normal spin, like for example 150. As you can see right now, right, left, as you can see right there. Which is very cool in my opinion. As well as that, I'm actually going to adjust something else. We have a few different variables that we can actually adjust, which were the curve factor as well as the lift factor. So as you can see right now, the lift factor is at 25, and this is kind of how it looks, right? As you see, we're quite close to the ground. But if I were to make it lift even more, by for example, doing 250, as you see, I'm going to start going way more up now. So as you can see, boom, and that is way more of a lift than previously. Of course, we can do the lift factor to, for example, even more drastically, put it to 1,000. As you can see, it goes quite far and high. definitely it's definitely a distance or a difference. It's actually way more noticeable over more of a distance. As you can see right there, when I put it to 10,000, I'm going straight up right now, which is pretty cool. But anyways, let's put this back to the normal value, which is 20. Then we also have the curve factor. I'll show you again how it kind of looks right now. This is how it looks, right? And then with a more curve factor, it's gonna look way different. Like for example, if we were to put it to 500. If you guys look at this, as you can see, the spin takes over way more than the VZ now because the curve factor is way higher. So if I want more of a spin to kind of depict more, right, I can put it to, for example, let's say 100, like this. As you can see, boom, and the spin is way more kind of like you call it efficient. It just it puts more weight on the spin, right? That's basically the curve factor. What was the value again? It was 30. All right, so I can show the drag as well, actually. So the drag is right now at 980, which is the normal. And if I throw it, this is kind of what it looks like, right? Pretty cool. But if I were to, for example, put the drag to, I don't know, let's say 1000, it's going to have like way less resistance.
All right, so you might be wondering why the higher the drag number is, the less resistance it gets, and the lower the number is, the more resistance it gets. But it's quite simple to actually explain. And the reason why it's like that is because it's actually way easier for the math to implement. And just kind of think of it like 1000 is 100%. And if you put it to 90, that's 90% of the force being kept.
And when I throw this, as you guys can see, it goes way further without barely any resistance at all, like that. As well as if I do, maybe let's do like 950, right? As you can see, way more resistance. Maybe even if I do like 900, it's gonna go like crazy. As you can see, it's gonna stop right there, which is not far at all. And we can do something like 990, which is 10 above what we actually have it on usually. And it does something like this, which is pretty cool. But that was basically what I've got so far. As well as I'm going to add some balance physics and stuff later. But for now, I'll show y'all some cool shots, maybe like a cool montage of me trying the 3 holes that has been made so far. But yeah, let's do it.
I'll give this one more try.